episode of Morbid Visions. I am Morbid, and he's still here. He's here again.
You can't get rid of me.
Joe Olson. Again, if you didn't watch the other episode, we did an episode on Joe Olson's stained glass work. If you haven't seen the episode, check it out, because his work is awesome. Very unique, very cool stuff. If you've been following our movies, if you're new and you haven't been following our movies, he is the star of our movie Cryptic Plasm. Mm-hmm. He's the star of Blood Pigs. He's actually the star, technically, of the wraparound story of Morbid Tales, and he's one of the victims in Fetus.
Yep.
So, yeah, check out the other episode, check out his stuff. But what I normally do here is, when I film these, I usually do, because they're fast to film. These are pretty quick to do. And I'll do at least 2 episodes in a row. Some of them, there was one day I did 5, and I did the thing where I made sure I changed my shirt so it looked like a different day every time. But yeah,
very smart.
I figured he's going to be here. Let's do at least 2 of them. So I asked him. I said, "Hey, think of an idea. What do you think would be a cool idea for an episode, for a topic to talk about?"
Yeah. So I mean, he asked me that, and I was trying to think, because I always told people that I didn't get into horror till I was in high school. You know, we had an after-school program, film club we started, and one of my friends brought in Evil Dead.
Oh, yeah.
Which I'd never seen before, and because I didn't watch horror. I don't watch horror. So we watched Evil Dead, and I remember walking home thinking, that was really cool. That was really fun. I really wanted...
It's a damn good introduction.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't watch that. So, then, of course, from there, I just, got everything horror, Evil Dead 2 from the library, and everything I could, just, But I was thinking, I was like, but wait a minute, there were some things that I watched before that were horror-related, and it didn't click until he'd asked me that question of what I wanted to do, and I was like, wait a minute. I used to watch TV shows, and I used to watch different things like that were all horror-related or horror-adjacent. Mm. And so it's like, even though I technically didn't start watching horror movies until high school, I really have been doing it all along, and I didn't even realize it. So, you don't until you think back, you go, oh, you didn't realize it. So,
It might not have been movies, but the TV shows. So, yeah, this topic we decided. Well, he came up with the idea. I'm like, all right, that's a great idea. Let's do it. Horror-related television shows. Obviously, a lot of them you've watched yourselves, and just different things that broke us into horror. Because even I didn't start watching horror until I was I think 13, maybe in junior high school or something. My older cousin got me into it. As a kid, believe it or not, I was scared to death of the sight of blood. I mean, I think as a little kid, when I saw Empire Strikes Back in the theater and they cut the tauntaun open, I was like, oh god! As a kid, I was afraid of that stuff. But at the same time, like you said, I realized I was obsessed with horror, not realizing it was really horror. As a kid, I always knew I was obsessed with Halloween time. So I loved spooky stuff. I love anything to do with ghosts, anything to do with Halloween, anything, that type of atmosphere. So yeah, I started thinking back of this type of stuff I was watching. And there was some horror type related stuff. What was the first thing you remember really watching horror related?
The first thing I remember watching, which we have a DVD for here, is actually The Real Ghostbusters animated TV show. I love the show. Obviously, it's colorful. It's got a lot of action. The creature designs are really, really fun and different. Yeah. All the ghosts and demons and stuff like that. And of course, it's funny and everything. That's what I thought the Ghostbusters were, and I hadn't seen the movie yet. And I thought, when I finally did see the movie, I was so surprised that Slimer wasn't part of the team. I'm like, where's Slimer? Why isn't he there? Because in the TV show, he's a lot more, maybe in the cartoon, he's a lot more of a presence. So I just remember watching this and thinking it was so cool and so much fun, and the ghosts and goblins and all those things, and this was definitely one of the first things I saw when I was a kid.
I started watching that. I think I was in junior high school or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I remember I had a paper route at the time. I'd get my paper route done, and I'd come home, and that would end up being on TV right around the same time. Mm-hmm. And I would put it on. Maybe I was waiting for something else. I gave it a shot. I'm like, I'm going to watch it. Because I loved the movie. I already was a huge fan of the movie. And I ended up liking the show, and I think one of the ones that caught me, I think it's called Welcome to Lupusville. Mm-hmm. And it's an episode about vampires versus werewolves. Mm-hmm. But it's funny. It's like a kid's cartoon. But all the atmosphere is there.
Yes.
The creepy music's there. The fog, out in the woods type setting. And so it felt I'm like, oh, this is actually better than I thought it'd be. So actually, when the DVDs came out, I'm like, I'm gonna grab some of these because I want to see those episodes again. And they've got a Cthulhu episode.
Oh yeah,
There's a Cthulhu
right.
episode on there, which is, and they've got Shoggoths. they mention H.P. Lovecraft. They got the Necronomicon. I'm like, this is awesome.
That's
and
awesome.
I never saw that episode when it was on TV, so that was really cool to catch that.
That's cool.
Let's see it.
And then every episode starts off with a theme.
Yeah.
So you can't go wrong with that. You hear the Ghostbusters theme every single episode. Okay, cool. We'll listen to that. So it was a lot of fun.
As far as TV, nothing like the standard type TV shows. I don't think as a kid I didn't watch The Twilight Zone. I didn't get into that stuff a little bit later.
Mm-hmm.
For me, which I'm definitely going to do an episode on, is there was a Creature double feature here in the Boston area, Boston Providence area, and obviously it was Godzilla movies. That's what I loved. I was addicted to it because of the Godzilla films, all the kaiju stuff. But they also played like the Hammer films.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, granted, this is a TV show. It was a TV show on TV, but they were playing movies. But again, I didn't realize. Cause I always say the first horror film I ever watched was The Howling, when I was either 12 or 13 years old, and my older cousin got me to watch that. So that was like the first rated R film I saw. But then I think back, I'm like, wait a minute, I was actually watching the Hammer films on Creature Double Feature, because they didn't just do monster stuff, they did the Hammer stuff, they did the Universal Monster stuff. And some of the Hammer films, I mean, obviously they were probably cut for television, but I remember being a kid watching some of those going, ugh. I was like, whoa, this is a bit darker and a bit more, violent than I expected. So I think that was my introduction to that type of stuff. And then as I got older and became a teenager, like obviously, one of the earliest ones I remember is Tales from the Dark Side. So I caught the pilot episode on TV. It just happened to be a fluke. It was Halloween time. It was probably the Saturday before Halloween, whatever day Halloween fell on. And I was watching all the different stuff. It was different specials on, so I was watching everything Halloween related on television. Because I was always obsessed with that stuff. And I don't remember the name Tales from the Dark Side. I don't remember anything about it. I noticed there was a show coming up called, what was the name of that episode? Trick or Treat. Yeah, it was called Trick or Treat. I think it even might have been listed as being called Trick or Treat, which is weird, because I don't remember Tales from the Dark Side. So I watched it, and it was dark, but it was scarier than usual. I'm like, that was really cool. But then I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what I just saw. I thought maybe it was just a half-hour episode. Then I eventually found out it was Tales from the Dark Side. It was the first episode. So these were the first things. The second episode I saw was called Case of the Stubborns, and it's about two younger people. I think they were grandkids, and their grandfather's dying, but he was too stubborn to admit it, or he was dead and he was too stubborn. He was still walking around, and at the end of the episode, he sneezes, and you don't see him. He's just like, he's got his face covered. He's like, oh. And then he finally walks away and he goes upstairs and he lays down in bed and dies. And they open up the napkin and there's this nose sitting in the napkin with that green slime everywhere. I remember as a kid, I'm like, oh, no way, that's awesome. And that was my introduction to Tales from the Dark Side.
That's so cool. Yeah, I had the same kind of experience, I think, with the show that I liked, which was Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Oh, yeah.
On Nickelodeon. We used to watch that every week. It was, every day, because it would be daily at the time. Yeah. And me and my sisters would sit down 5 o'clock every day. I remember what time it was, and we'd watch Are You Afraid of the Dark every time. It was always good. So just loved it. It was such good atmosphere, more of a kid orientated, obviously, show, but with obviously good atmosphere and things towards horror, something like that. I just remember that show just had the first show I saw where it didn't have, not every episode had happy endings.
Oh yeah.
So that was really cool. They'd end up stuck in a crystal ball or something at the end, or or they would not. They thought they defeated the monster, but they were the monster the whole time or something. So
I ended up catching episodes much later. I do think like I said, I was talking to you earlier saying I would come home after work. There's a little bit of an age gap between us. So he was like more of a kid. I was at another point and whatever. So I'd come home from work and I knew it was on. I was having a snack, and so I think I would put it on. I've heard of it. I knew it was a kid's show. But I caught someone, I'm like, hey, this actually ain't too bad.
They don't shy away from the horror, which was a lot of fun. So they didn't really talk down to their audience. And then what I thought was really cool, I'd never seen before in a kids show really, was these sort of reoccurring characters. Like that they would come back in different stories depending on who was telling the story. So like to be a character came back, like Dr. Vink and Mr. Van Dam and stuff like that would come back because. Obviously it made sense now that I think about it. It's like when the same person's telling a story, you use the same characters. Yeah. I just thought that was really cool.
That's cool.
And I was like, oh, that's a lot of fun, and like that consistency throughout the show. Yes, I really loved it. And, it was a little scary and a little dark, and definitely just what I was looking for at the time.
Cool. Good. When I was a kid, obviously another thing for me was just simply Halloween stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Anything Halloween oriented around Halloween time, I absolutely loved. And one thing I absolutely always loved, and I always made sure I caught, were Halloween episodes of TV shows I watched. I remember one day specifically after school when I was a kid, the Brady Bunch and Happy Days and Laverne and Shirley would all play in a row. And there was one night, afternoon, where they played all the Halloween episodes from every show. And I remember it was so cool. I mean, I was only a little kid. I was maybe 8-10 years old or something. I was just obsessed with that stuff. I thought it was the coolest thing. So that horror element really got me going as a kid. I loved seeing that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And then I found this just 2 days ago. I had to go through one of my totes. All my old VHSs are all just in a big tote, sitting there rotting, getting moldy. Okay, I do remember seeing this show. It was on at like 11 o'clock on the weekends, I think. And it was on Channel 64. You won't know what that is. But it was on Channel 64.
I do remember 64, actually.
And it was this TV show. I saw the videotapes at Suncoast. Suncoast was selling these things back when they were around. Secrets of the Unknown. And it was just a cool half-hour show where different subjects, like this one just happens to be about poltergeists. So I love ghost stuff. So all sorts of, it was just like all different ghost stories on this and everything. Like it's all based on true stuff. But they would do all different stuff. I think they had like lake monsters on one. They had dreams and nightmares. So this was a cool show. I actually want to see if I can get one of my VCRs to work again so I can watch this again.
That reminds me of the true thing that I just thought of you saying that. Not really horror related, but still dark, and I used to watch as a kid, was Unsolved Mysteries.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that one, Unsolved Mysteries. They have a guy with what was his name, Robert Stack, with his voice would come in, and then he would...
And the music?
Yeah.
The music was just creepy.
Yeah, the music was creepy, and then, he would, obviously it'd be Unsolved Mysteries, so you didn't know what happened, and he'd go over the things of the case and stuff, and that's kind of horror-related. I just thought of that when you said that.
Yeah.
I used to watch that, too, like Unsolved Mysteries.
I watched it all the time. And then when they did the ghost when they would do ghost stories, I was like, oh, it's a ghost story, that's awesome. I'd get, so into it. And it's funny, because just recently, they rebooted it.
Yeah.
And I would see people talking on Facebook, like, oh, I remember that show was so creepy. Just him the way he narrated
Yeah,
music.
he had the best voice for that. Like, okay, Unsolved Mysteries, just to hear him say it, just like, oh, I'm all set.
Another one that had just creepy atmosphere to it. Then of course, kind of going in order here. Next one would be for us, obviously, would be like the X-Files.
Yeah, absolutely.
The X-Files, I mean, more sci-fi, but they still had some really good horror episodes, and they had some creepy stuff on here.
I can't remember all the episodes, but there's definitely one where they pretend to be a couple in a cul-de-sac, and then there's like this weird creature that comes and like kills people when they go against the HOA or whatever. And they didn't really show the creature, so it was just sort of like slowly moving around and stuff. It was only off camera, so that was a pretty cool episode. So definitely creepy.
My favorite episode of that is on season 1, and it's called Darkness Falls, and it starts with that eerie classic thunder, and then it's all fogged out woods. So instantly, I got sucked right in the episode. It's the episode with like all these little green mites that come out at night, and if they get on you, they eat you. They just eat you like from the inside out and drain all your blood and stuff. So that was my favorite episode of that.
Yeah, can't go wrong with that.
When you were talking about a creature in a neighborhood, it reminded me, and it's for sale now, and I have to get it. I got to remember to get this. Werewolf.
Oh,
do you remember Werewolf?
Nope.
All right, yeah.
I've not seen it.
It was check it out. Yeah. It's out now for sale if you want to check out a good TV series. I don't know if
I've heard of it, but I've never actually seen it, but yeah.
All right, just a picture. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's still good now, but for its time, it was when Fox first started. And when the Fox Saturday nights first, it was before they really did Sunday night stuff. But Saturday nights was like when Cops just started out. It was like Cops, Married with Children. I think Married with Children was at the Sunday night. But anyways, it was around the time of when Married with Children first came out. And then there was a show called Werewolf. And it was a dead serious half-hour TV show where the lead character was a werewolf. Awesome werewolves.
That's cool.
The werewolf effects are better than any of these new movies coming out.
That's cool. Very cool.
But then obviously,
Oh yeah, we got this one right here. I mean,
probably this is the pinnacle of horror television, I would say.
Yeah.
Once this happened, this was perfect.
Yeah, it just has so many episodes, and it's just got something for everybody. You know what I mean? If you're a fan of horror, if you're a fan of comedy, it's just got everything in it. So.
And the cool thing is the fact that it was done by HBO is they didn't have to hold back. They didn't have to go by regular network standards like a lot of these other shows had to. But Tales from the Crypt was just awesome. I do remember being a little disappointed when it first came out because the first couple episodes were kind of a little too quirky. I was like, oh, it's good, but then they got into the more serious stuff.
I remember that. I mean, we used to watch it at my friend's house, so we were young, you know, and my friend would just be like, call me when the episode starts after the Crypt Keeper's done, because he would not want to watch with the Crypt Keeper, so he'd be like, I'm not watching the Crypt Keeper. So that was the creepiest part. And then once the Crypt Keeper was off the screen, he'd come down and watch that episode. So that was funny. But yeah, I loved this show. My favorite episode, I can't remember the name of it, but you know, you've probably seen it as well. It's the one where the fraternity pledges they have to go into the old house with like the coughing ghost or whatever, and then they have to go one by one to the attic.
Matt Damon's in that. Is it Matt Damon?
I
Matt Damon and what's
Will Wheaton's in it.
Will Wheaton.
Will Wheaton is the main character, and then I don't know if Matt Damon's in it. I can't remember, like, you know, but I love that.
Yeah, he's the one that keeps bullying them and making them do all the frat hazing stuff.
Yeah, it was just so much fun. It was cool. And one of those episodes that didn't have a happy ending.
Yeah. Per
se. It was so I remember seeing that one thinking like, this is really cool. Tales from the Crypt, so much fun, you know, and of course, you know, we're adults because of the HBO stuff.
Yeah. I had a great story with it. Just happens to be my favorite episode. Is at the time I was hanging out at my friend's house with my girlfriend at the time, so the three of us were watching it. He had HBO, so he had recorded them, and I think it was right after Halloween or right before Halloween. So they did like a block of like surreal, like the most scary type ones. And my favorite episode is called Television Terror with Martin Downey Jr.
Oh, it's good.
Where he's like Geraldo Rivera going into the haunted house, and I'm just like, once they get in, I'm like, this episode's really good. I'm like, I love the atmosphere of this episode. And it's funny, it was a bad thunderstorm outside while we're watching it.
That's awesome.
So it just made the perfect atmosphere as we're watching. And then just as things were getting really, really creepy, when the haunting started happening within the house, we were just sitting there watching, all of a sudden, boom! Power goes out. We're like, whoa! It was the best timed scare type thing that happened in my entire life.
That's awesome.
It was just such perfect. Bad thunderstorm, it's pouring out. Huge thunder crash that scared the crap out of us, and it knocked the power out at the same time while we were watching that. We were all just like, oh my god, that was perfect! Oh my god, that was so cool! So that created a perfect memory for me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is ingrained in you now for forever now. You're never going to be able to get rid of that because you get that awesome story that goes along with it. So. And then, although it's a Christmas episode, I mean, all through the house, it's just like one of my... I love that episode.
That's a great
with
episode.
The killers,
that was the first episode.
Santa stuff. Yeah, exactly. It's just first episode. It did a really good job with that. I love it. So, that inspired, obviously that lead from Tales from hold on. Obviously from Are You Afraid of the Dark, right to Tales from the Crypt, you can see there's a straight line right there. Yeah. So it's like you love one, it's kind of like you go right for the other one. So,
And that's funny, actually. I was just what I'm eventually leading up to next was just more kind of the TV shows that inspire what we do now. There's a shot that I didn't recreate it, but there's a shot that I was like, all right, this is the Tales from the Crypt shot in Cryptic Plasm, when you're possessed or you're possessed messed up and you kind of fade off into the basement, and my character looks down and we're looking down into the stairwell and it's dark and creepy, he's down there somewhere. In Television Terror, Martin Downey Jr. opens up the basement door and the cameraman looks down into the basement, and I love that shot. It's such a great creepy shot. I'm like, I'm putting one of those shots in Cryptic Plasm.
That's awesome.
So that specifically inspired part of Cryptic Plasm.
That's so cool.
But then back in some of these were from the 90s, early 90s, and then into the 2000s and stuff. But another show I absolutely loved when it was out, and it definitely inspires the type of writing I do for like Cryptic Plasm and anything else that has type of haunting type stuff. It was a show called Sightings. Loved this show. It was kind of like that Secrets of the Unknown. It was they had a television host. They made it look like he was at a news desk and all that stuff. That was a little cheesy.
Cheesy.
But the stories were really cool. They they did hauntings. They did UFO stuff. They did lake monsters. They would. The one part I was kind of like, they would follow psychics that would help out like the police and stuff, and psychic stuff or whatever. But some of the ghost stuff was very cool in this. It was a very cool show. And actually, I just realized this. I thought of a story. I got a great story about this one too. Is Stacy and I went to Chiller. It was actually the last Chiller we went to, somewhere in the mid 2000s. And the reason we had to go to this one is Henry Winkler was there.
Oh, okay.
Henry Winkler was executive producer on Sightings.
That's cool.
So this is Henry Winkler's TV show. This was some. And when we met him, we got to meet him. I mean, obviously, we go in there to meet the Fonz. I mean, how cool is that?
Of course.
We got pictures taken with him. We got to have him sign stuff and everything. But then at the very end, I mentioned to him, I said, I loved your show, Sightings. And as soon as I mentioned Sightings, he lit up. Because it was something different to talk to him about. And it's something he got to talk about that no one ever tells him about.
Oh, yeah.
He was like, oh, thank you so much. He goes, oh, that was so much fun. He just went on how much he enjoyed producing this show. But it was just so cool to meet Henry Winkler and talk to him about one of my favorite shows.
It probably made his day.
Yeah, and like I said, he lit up as soon as I mentioned Sightings. And then part of me in the back of my head, I'm like, it better be the same person in the credits. So then eventually, Sci-Fi Channel, when Sci-Fi Channel was worth watching, they came out with Ghost Hunters, which I thought was really cool because like I still love the paranormal. Unfortunately, today in the YouTube days, you can't believe anything anymore. Everyone fakes everything, so it's like, but this was the only show at the time like this. So it was like, oh, no way, that's cool. And it was just, again, a show where half the show is in night vision.
Yeah.
There was never anything like that really on TV before.
There's been a lot of knockoffs of this kind of thing.
Oh, absolutely. This started.
This started, but they took a lot more seriously, so they weren't out there singing and so the ghosts and stuff and, making things and, oh, what was that? They were, like, actually taking it seriously, and that kind of made it more interesting.
Yeah. And the cool thing also for us watching this is from our area. These guys are based very close to us, which is damn cool. So it was like, oh, wow, we recognize a lot of they did an episode at the Worcester Palladium, where it's Rock and Shock. They would, at the end of the night, they would have all the concerts. They investigated the Palladium, which was pretty cool. Unfortunately, the requirements of television and a network and a show getting very popular, making money, they got busted. It's eventually, that's when, Stacy and I used to watch it all the time. We both loved it. We've met them. We met them at Chiller. They were we told them where we were from. They're like, no way, oh, that's great. But then they did, they were doing the live Halloween episodes, which was like, how are they going to pull that off? That's kind of weird. Oh, see if anything really happens, because if it happens, it's really happening, live. Yeah. And there would always be, like, not really anything that really happened, but then there was that one episode where stuff happened, and they weren't faking it very well, and everyone called them out on it. And it was just like, they still kept going after that. I think they apologized for that. They said, it was just a live show, but how do you trust them after that? Yeah. So, after the live Halloween episode, I was like, sorry, guys. Yeah. But the concept, I love the concept. The concept of the show was great. Yeah, watching it when it was first out there, watching it live every week and stuff, it was awesome. It was a lot of fun to watch. But around the same time as Ghost Hunters, before Ghost Hunters jumped the shark, I mentioned this in one of the episodes, Destination Truth started. I love this episode. I never want to find out anything was faked in this episode, in this television show. Don't want to hear it. I mean, I know there's a very good chance there was stuff, but it was just, again, the concept. This was so much scarier because of where they went, the places they went. I mean, going into Indonesia and stuff, out in the woods where, like, guys, there's tigers out there. Forget the paranormal stuff. You could get killed by the wildlife. There's a real predator out there that can actually eat you. So that stuff was scary. And again, like, the whole second half of the episode would always be in night vision, which just, I love that look. It's just so damn creepy. And again, obviously huge influence. Oh, there was the episode on Morbid Films where we talked about cryptic plasm, what influenced it. He is playing him. We even use the same last name. Yep. This is Josh Gates. And I played David Gates. It was
was no sugarcoating it.
Yeah, we were just like, screw it. It just sounded great. David Gates just sounded. It just rolled off the tongue so perfectly. We're like, yo, it's right there, but who cares?
Yeah.
No one ever called us out on it, but when I did mention it, someone was like, I was wondering if that's what it was. That's awesome. But again, it's
just an homage to the show you love. So
yeah,
what the hell?
But this had a huge influence on Cryptic Plasm. I mean, basically the atmosphere we were going for was this TV show, the core of the movie, and then there was the H.P. Lovecraft stuff. But yeah, this was a great show. Very creepy stuff. Like I said, obviously I don't have anything from Twilight Zone, but Twilight Zone is awesome. I'm a big fan of that, but I didn't watch that until actually much later when I was adult. Actually watching, around the time of Destination Truth and Ghost Hunters, especially when, the Sci-Fi Channel marathons, which they still do on New Year's Eve, I think it is.
Yeah.
And New Year's Day. Twilight Zone, unfortunately, we never bought the Twilight Zone, but like one of my favorite episodes of that is The Monsters Are Due on Maple Street, where the aliens get the whole neighborhood paranoid and turn against each other. So that was my favorite.
Awesome. I like After Hours, with the lady goes to go shopping, and then she starts getting followed by people who recognize her, but she doesn't know who they are, and then ends up she's a mannequin at the end.
Oh yeah, that's a great one.
She's supposed to be coming back, and she totally forgot, so it's really cool.
I mean, obviously, so these are ones obviously I like to show off ones that we own, but there's obviously so many more. You've got Freddy's Nightmares, Friday the 13th, the TV series.
The Munsters.
Totally forgot about the Munsters. I don't own it, and unfortunately, I want to own it. Every time I go to FYE, I keep looking at it and see how much it is. I'm like, do I feel like that? And I have so far every time I walked away. But, so, all the Halloween episodes.
Yeah, all the Simpsons, Treehouse of Horror episodes.
Treehouse of Horror is awesome. Love Treehouse of Horror. The earlier ones are the best ones. They kind of got a little bit as it went on. But yeah, so,
lots of stuff to talk about. We can't talk about it all now.
Yeah, we can't. We could sit here forever. I mean, there's so many of them probably. But these were the main ones that really stood out to us. Ones that we watched as kids and stuff. And and of course, some of these other ones, the paranormal type stuff, influenced our movie making. Yeah, so I thought this was a cool topic to talk about, horror television. Okay, so yeah, I hope you liked the video. This was a fun one to do, to hang out and just talk about. And give the video a like and subscribe to More Vision Films, and we will see you again sometime.